Hey guys, so welcome back to my channel. Before we start, let me introduce you to the tripod of the day. Three pillows. Anyway, right now I'm currently studying for my TEFL and I have my first assignment to hand out right now and it's stressing me out a lot. I thought I could do it in my room, but I'm too stressed out. That's why I'm procrastinating by making this video. And yeah, and then I'm gonna go to a cafe so I could force myself to finish it today. But yeah, without further ado, this video is going to be about one of my Tinder dates back in Japan. It was kind of like a long Tinder date kind of thing and a lot of things happened. Yeah, and it was really sensitive, so I couldn't really talk about it when it was happening, but since it's been about a year since we stopped seeing each other, I guess I could talk about it now. So last year around February, I was on Tinder looking for I wonder if I could meet. And I see this guy and his profile picture, it's like he used like a rabbit filter and it was just him just like smiling with a rabbit filter on. And usually I wouldn't like these kind of people, but he looked approachable, like he looked really nice and kind. And another thing is that he was a graduate from Osaka University, and I really like talking to intelligent people, and that was like green flag. And also in his description it said that he likes to teach people, and I love learning new things. I'm like a super curious person, so I thought we could get along. And also another point that made me like him was he super liked me, and usually if someone super likes me, I like really consider if I should meet them or not. Like I look at all their pictures, I read every little detail and see, like, yeah. So we matched and we decided to meet at a coffee shop. There's a little downtown called Sannomiya in Kobe, and we decided to meet at Komeda Coffee. I think we met around like 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. We get to this cafe and we go inside, and then while we're drinking our coffee, the first thing he talks about is that he doesn't believe in gender roles. Like he thinks it's bullshit. Like for example, like about how the guy has to pay on the first day and stuff. Like he doesn't believe in that bullshit kind of thing. And I was like, okay, that's fine, for each their own. And I thought it was kind of cool that he had his own like way of thinking, because people usually just go with the flow, right? But he had like his own opinions. So I thought that was interesting. I was listening to his story, and while we're like just chatting, he would just tell me to eat more. He's like, oh, you should eat more. Like I love watching people eat. Like, oh, if you want to eat this, like just eat it. So because he was like encouraging me to eat a lot, I kept ordering like more and more food. All the while he's just drinking his cup of coffee, okay? When it became time to pay, he's like, oh, let's split the bill. And I was like, oh, okay. And so he paid for his 1 cup of coffee, and I ended up paying for my coffee and all the food that he was encouraging me to eat. I didn't really mind that I had to pay for it, but if I had to pay for it, I was wondering why he was like telling me to eat more, because I don't know, it felt like, I don't know, it was just kind of like, I don't know, I didn't get it. But yeah, before we met, we were talking about each other's hobbies, and he said he really enjoys otoge, which stands for oto game, I think, and it's like music games. So you go to the arcade, and you know the ones that like it makes you look like a cat, kind of like you like just press it, like buttons, like sparkling buttons, and beep, 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 beep. He really likes playing that. And although I've lived in Japan for 10 years before, I've never played an otoge before. After we had coffee, we decided to go to the otoge, and I had so much fun. And it was not only a lot of fun, but it was really funny, because I don't know, it made me realize how animalistic people are. Seeing all the people just like zoned into the game, pressing buttons like that, it was just like seeing like a cat video on YouTube, and I was like, wow, people really are just like animals. So yeah, it was really funny, and he's like getting all into it. Yeah, and we played, and then on the way home, he's like, oh, I'll take you to the train station, because we take different trains back home. We got to the train station really early, but he still had a lot of things he wanted to share, and it was really interesting to hear his thoughts. Oh, another thing that attracted me to him, his profile, is that he said he's really into philosophy and psychology, and I was really into psychology at the time. So yeah, I wanted to hear more about like what he knows, and I thought we could share our knowledge with each other. So yeah, and he was talking about like philosophy the whole time. When I got to my train station, he still had a lot of things to say, so we ended up like circling the train station like a couple laps while he just kept talking about philosophy. Eventually I went home. It was kind of late. When we said our goodbyes, I was thinking, okay, I don't mind meeting him again if he wants to meet me, but I'm not going to proactively approach him because I love the fact that he was super intelligent and that he had a lot of things to say, but some of the things he said, it was just like really difficult. Like I couldn't really get some of the things he was trying to say. So I just waited a couple days, and then he's like, oh, let's meet again. And it turns out that we have a common interest, which was shogi. Most Japanese guys know how to play shogi, and with me, I've always wanted to learn, but I've never had the opportunity to like to someone to teach me and stuff. So I told him, oh, I want to learn shogi, can you teach me shogi? And he's like, oh yeah, of course. So our second date, he took me to a game shop so we could buy a shogi board. I ended up buying the shogi board, and we went to Starbucks together, and he was teaching me shogi. And he's actually a really good teacher because his job prior used to be a cram school teacher for people who are entering university, so he's really good at teaching. So he was teaching me shogi, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. And yeah, like I just had a lot of fun just like learning from him. And after that we went to get some Korean food, and it was really weird. Like he was like really geeky. It's a compliment, me saying he's geeky, but he was really geeky, and he had like his weird quirks. Like for example, I don't know why he did this, but there was like, he had this urge to have to jump on things. Like for example, at a park there was like this massive stone, and I was like, whoa, that's so big. Like it was higher than me, and I was like, whoa, that's so big. And when I looked back, he wasn't there anymore, and then I see him running and he jumps on this rock. I was like, oh my god, you jumped so high. And I think because I was so surprised to see how high he jumped, he got really like fueled by that, and he wanted to jump even more. So at night when we were walking around Sannomiya, when all the stores were closed and there's like the store signs at the top, he would like jump and like touch all the store shops and stuff. It was really funny. But he did jump really high. I've never seen, like, he's not, I think he's about like 174 centimeters maybe, but I bet you he could dunk a basketball into a basketball hoop. Like I've never seen someone jump so high before. Like he was like a flying squirrel, like yeah, he was just going at it. So basically we had a couple dates. We met almost every weekend, and it was really fun, but it was like 50% fun and 50% tiring for me, because a lot of things he said I really couldn't say anything back. My conversation level wasn't up to par to his. I think he's a very hyper intelligent person. Yeah, with hyper intelligent people, you know, they use really hard vocabulary, and he's very interested in philosophy, so he'd ask me really difficult questions to try to engage me into his conversation, but sometimes I didn't know what to say. Like for example, we decided to go to a book cafe. So it's a cafe with a bunch of books, and we could read all the books in the cafe. And I love going to book cafes. I love going to bookshops and libraries, so I was really pumped about it. And on our way to the bookshop, he points to a pole, and he's like, Steph, isn't it amazing that if you point to that and I asked you what it is, you would say pole, right? But why don't you say metal? Like why don't you say gray? Or why don't you say like a long object? Like isn't it amazing how we all universally say pole? And when he asked me that, 確かに I've never thought about it, but I didn't really see the relevance of that question. Like so yeah, I was really confused and I didn't know what to say. So there were a lot of conversations where I'm just like, oh, could you explain to me the relevance and of this conversation? Like, not to be rude, but I just wanted to know why he thought like it's interesting and why he thought I should think it's interesting and how it would be relevant into our daily life. So yeah, I would ask him, but yeah, his explanation got like really long and like I didn't really understand what he was trying to say. So basically it was enjoyable, like 50% enjoyable but 50% tiring for me. But we ended up meeting for about like a good, so we met in February and we met every weekend until June, because I remember it was like right before my birthday. Eventually around June-ish, I started to get really tired. Like I started dreading the weekends because I'm like, oh no, I have to have a deep philosophical conversation that I don't understand and this is like a lot on me. So eventually I told him sometime in June that I really enjoyed our time together, but I don't think this is gonna work out. Like I don't see this going anywhere. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, and yeah, sorry for suddenly cutting things off, but yeah, I'm not interested in meeting again. So yeah, I cut things off. And when I cut things off from him, so this is kind of where things started to go downhill. He started uninvited just showing up to my house and just ringing the doorbell. And at the time I was living by myself, so and you know, if someone rings the doorbell, I could see on the screen who it is, and it would just be him standing. And I was kind of scared because, you know, I don't know if he came like with amicable feelings or if he was angry. So I just kind of like didn't respond. Yeah, and I really didn't know what to do. I guess the right thing I should have done was to like text him and tell him not to do that or something. But basically what happened was the next day I talked to my 7-Eleven coworkers that a guy that I used to be dating, he keeps showing unexpectedly at my house. And they asked me, oh, like what kind of guy is he? And I told him that, so okay, oh, I'm missing a few details here. It turns out that he was unemployed. And the reason why he was unemployed is because he had OCD. And he's actually a really smart guy. He went to Osaka University, but it turns out he couldn't graduate, not because he wasn't smart enough, but because he just felt a lot of pressure to have to graduate to please his parents. And yeah, he just he ended up just quitting university. So after he quit university, he worked as a cram school teacher, and he was actually one of the best teachers in the cram school. But suddenly he said that to him, it started to, this is a symptom of OCD, I think, the way he explained it, but it started to look like everything around him was rotting, he said. He felt really disgusted, like everything was just like rotting around him. It got to the point where he couldn't work anymore, so he ended up quitting the job, and he was unemployed for about a year, and he's been living off of his savings for that year. That's why he did it. Yeah, that's why it turns out he didn't want to, you know, he couldn't pay for our meals, and every time we went out to eat, he would always get the cheapest thing on the menu and stuff like that. And he would never buy drinks or never buy snacks or never buy anything that was unnecessary. Sometimes when we did meet, like, he'd be waiting for me, and when I see him, his hands would be like bright red because of washing his hands too much, because yeah, you know, people with OCD, they wash their hands a lot. And yeah, so so that was kind of his situation. When I told my coworker the bit of information that he's unemployed, that's when my coworker started to get a little panicky, because in Japan there's a lot of homicides. I think about 99% of the homicides are done by unemployed males, whether that be, you know, killing their romantic partners, or for example the Abe assassination, that was also by an unemployed individual. So when I told my coworker that he was unemployed, that's when he got really worried about me, and he's like, Steph, you should like contact the police and tell them that you're being stalked, because this is really scary and serious, and if he's showing up, like, you know, with unemployed people, because if you're employed, this is what my coworker said, if you're employed, you're busy with work and you have too much to risk if you do like stupid shit. But if you're unemployed, all you're thinking about the whole day is the relationship and you have nothing to lose. So yeah, my coworker recommended me to go to the police and file a stalker report. So that's what I did. I filed a report on him. And you know what's really interesting is throughout the whole 5 months that we were meeting, he actually never told me he only told me his real name once. But the entire time we just talked to each other using like nicknames, because it was really interesting because I think he just really wanted to disassociate himself from his real self, because it turns out he was not honest about his age. He told me he was younger when he was, well, it was just 1 year, but he was 1 year older, but he told me he was 1 year younger than his actual age, and the entire time I just called him his nickname. But one day he told me his real age and his real name. And yeah, he just told me once, like, oh, by the way, kind of thing. And he told me his birthday, and yeah. So and he told me like a gist of where he grew up and stuff. So when I filed a report on him, I had to do this all on memory because yeah, but I told the police like, oh, I think his name is this, because he told me once, so I'm not sure. And I think his birthday is this, and he told me he lives in this city, but that's all the information that I have. And I also know that he's unemployed and he went to Osaka University. And yeah, when I told the police that, they found him, like they found his house. I told him that I filed a police report on him, so please stop showing up in front of my house uninvited. Yeah, and eventually the police went to his house and talked to him and his parents, and yeah, told him about like the stalker report and stuff. And a month after that, I ended up moving out of my apartment because I didn't feel that safe. And yeah, so that's kind of how it ended, which was kind of unfortunate, but yeah, that's a Tinder date story time, I guess. So yeah, that's what happened. Thanks for watching this random ass video. I'm not sure if you guys even find this interesting, but yeah. Let me know in the comment section below about your Tinder dates or your dating experiences, any funny stories. And yeah, I guess that's all the video for today, and I'll see you guys next time.